What do you envision most of the landscape kind of taking place in the next few weeks leading up to June?
Yeah, well, I think Domino's talked about this yesterday a lot, that a lot of the stuff they're doing currently, they don't really envision it going away in those early days. Contactless ordering, curbside, a lot of the stuff that's been instituted throughout COVID-19, they're going to be very vital in those early days afterward, because I think this idea that customers are just going to snap back to how they were before is a little bit hopeful. I mean, I think we'll have kind of a mix of the people who, the pent up demand and that rush back into restaurants, but then at the same time, there will still be a wary consumer base who, goes beyond kind of where we were at before, because, this is something Chipotle brought up earlier too. They have been instituting a lot of food safety practices, kind of following that 2015, issues that they had that were, really far along, but they weren't the type of things that were front and center, part of what they were telling consumers on a daily basis. And that's kind of what the big change, I think, is going to look like in those early days, because you'll have a lot of restaurants, especially in the full service side, that maybe they open up, half the dining room and they're getting 50% of that business, but they're projecting still to continue on with that contactless curbside or added delivery. And that's the type of thing that maybe will offset a little bit of that, drop in business, along with, operating hours if there's less people in the dining room, things like that. It's almost going to be like a hybrid version of reality as we move forward, kind of this mix between the off-premise expansion, and getting back to dine-in service. But, one thing I've seen a lot of is this notion that, you obviously will have employees wearing, gloves and masks and, things like that that are, sneeze guards and, other kind of stuff that are, dividers that are visually, on display for consumers to walk in and say, okay, they're obviously taking this seriously. But then the other thing too is that, you might have an employee position that's created for restaurants who now it's just somebody who walks around, the dining room, who's wiping down high contact surfaces. Maybe they're holding the door for consumers, stuff like that. And I've heard a lot of kind of off the wall ideas, maybe, you take all the salt and pepper shakers off your tables and now that's all just packets. It's single use items. They're menus people can throw away. Even in a full service restaurant where that seems kind of a crazy notion, or maybe even fine dining, that you go from having a menu like that to being a paper menu that gets tossed aside afterwards, stuff of that nature.